Kia ora and welcome to another video in this series aimed at teaching you how to play Riftbound step by step, getting you ready for your first Nexus 9. In the previous video, we built ourselves a Mel deck, and today we're going to put it to the test. We're going to be matching up against a Kaiser, which we haven't seen before, but it's been around since Origins and continues to be a really fun way of playing the game. Her legend ability is Kaiser, Daughter of the Void. She can, at reaction speed, add 1 power, but can only be used to play spells. And her chosen champion for today is Kaiser Survivor, a very commonly used chosen champion unit from Origins. It's a 4 energy, 4 might that can be accelerated, but has the ability, when I conquer, draw 1. It is a very strong card for many reasons, and we might see it today. As for beginning, we are going to start with the Mel going first, and we are going to, if I bring us over to this scene, we are going to be choosing our mulligans. Now for the Kaiser, the Time Warp, the Void Seeker, the Thousand Tail Watcher, and the other Void Seeker, they're all expensive. I'm going to get rid of these two, because we are going second, so at least eventually we'll be able to play one of these two spells. And we can see in our opening hand we got nothing really great, but that's sometimes the way the cookie crumbles. As for the Mel, we see an additional Mel, including our chosen champion, so we don't probably need to hold on to this one just yet. We have the Starcrofts, we have the Fizz, the Console the Past. Let's get rid of these two, and we will now mulligan into our first turn, in which we unfortunately brick, so it is what it is, and if we see the Kaiser, lucky for them, actually drew into a Lecturing Yordle, which they'll play and draw 1 for the Play Me ability, and they'll pass. It is now over to us, and we see our first glimmer of hope, you may say, with the stacked deck coming out. Now, stacked deck will allow us to look at the top 3 cards of our main deck, and put 1 to our hand and recycle the rest. We see a 2-drop from the Tide Turner, we can see another stacked deck and another Stupefy. At this stage, we probably want to put the Tide Turner to hand, recycle the other 2, resolve that, and then pay for the Tide Turner to come out, and we will now pass. It is now the Kaiser's turn. They are going to begin by moving their Lecturing Yordle to this battlefield. They are going to, before conquering, they're going to pass priority over to us, and we are going to tap 1 in order to gust the unit at a battlefield with 3 might or less, and currently it is at 1. And at reaction speed or faster, which there is nothing, the Kaiser must respond. It is important to note, while that they are at the Abandoned Hall, so any spell they chose that they could bolster their Yordle by 1, they actually need to be able to play 2 spells at reaction speed, and currently they've got a slow, an action, and another action. So unfortunately for them, the Gust will resolve, and they will now have to, for 3 again, play out the Lecturing Yordle again to draw another 1 for the turn, and they are going to... because I'm currently thinking whether or not they would Falling Star, because it would be 2 energy, 1 power, because they can substitute 1 of the power for this, in order to kill the Tide Turner, or if that's a bit extreme, and I think they'll think it's a bit extreme, so we're going to pass it over to us now, and what we are going to do is we are going to move our Tide Turner over to this battlefield, and we're first going to pass priority, and there's nothing that they can do, because anything they can afford is at slow speed. They could technically Bellows Breath twice, and actually that's exactly what they'll do. They'll tap 2, recycle 1, and tap the other, and they're going to do this twice to our Tide Turner. Now, here's a fun thing. Because of Abandoned Hall, we are going to pay 1 in order to stupefy their Lecturing Yordle, which is at reaction speed, so we can do it. And because of the Abandoned Hall, we are going to give our Tide Turner +1 might. Their Lecturing Yordle is going to go down to 1 might. We are going to draw 1, that will resolve. The Tide Turner will now take 2 damage, once for each proc of Bellows Breath. And the showdown will resolve, and we will score 1 point. Now we will not heal because it was not a combat showdown, and healing only occurs after a combat showdown or at the end of the turn, as far as I remember. But what we can do is we can now tap 2 more to play a Plundering Porrow to our base. And we will pass, changing up all the mites again, and it'll now be the Kaiser's turn, who draws their Ravenbloom student. Finally, they get a card they can use. They are going to open by tapping 2, recycling 1, and exhausting their legend ability in order to Falling Star, the Tide Turn, and the Plundering Porrow. We are going to, at reaction speed, tap 3, recycle 1 in order to Falling Star, targeting their Lecturing, Yordle, and our Tide Turner. These 2 units will be returned to hand unless there is something that the Kaiser can do, and there is nothing they can do, and so these 2 cards will be returned to hand. And that will mean that Falling Star only has 1 valid target now, and that will die, and that will resolve. Then for the remaining 4, they're going to tap 3 to Lecturing Yordle, draw 1 on the play, and they have to pass again. That was an ordering error from the Kaiser. They probably should have moved in before playing the Falling Star, but now you know. It is now our turn again. We're going to tap 5 to play the Mel, and we will pass. It is now the Kaiser's turn. They are going to begin by moving into the battlefield and conquering 2-1 because there's no response we can have. They will then tap 3 more to play another Lecturing Yordle and draw 1. And they will tap 2 to base to play a Ravenbloom student, and they will pass. It is now our turn. We are going to begin by tapping 3 to play a Bewitching Spirit, in which Kaiser now must discard 1 card from their hand. They are going to choose to discard the Plundering Porrow. We are then going to move Mel to... Well, actually, what we're going to do is we're going to now choose to discard a spell, being the Consult the Past, in order to empower our Mel, and we're going to kill one of those Lecturing Yordles, or banish it, I should say. There is no response from the Kaiser, and as such that will be removed from the game. We're then going to move our Mel over to this battlefield, and the Kaiser is going to respond by tapping 1 and the Kaiser ability to deal 3 damage to the Mel. As such, that will take 3 damage because we will allow that to resolve. And then at action speed, they will tap 1, recycle 1 in order to deal 1 damage to that unit. In which case, we will respond by tapping 2 at reaction speed to return the Mel back to base, and the Bellows Breath will fizzle. The showdown will resolve, with that being exactly what happens. Sorry, I forgot to empower my Mel, because I empowered that Mel, I can empower this Mel. And then we will conclude by tapping 3 to play out a Ravenbloom Prefect and pass. It is now the Kaiser's turn. They will score to 2. Our Mel will heal from the damage taken. They will now move into the Abandoned Hall and score to 3, because there is nothing we can do as the Mel. And then they will tap 4 to play out Kaiser, bring the Lecturing Yordle back, and they will pass. It is now our turn. We are going to begin by exhausting Mel, the Legend, in order to reduce the Ravenbloom student's might by 2 down to 0. And we will be moving in the Bewitching Spirit to this battlefield. The Kaiser is going to respond by tapping 3 and exhausting her Legend ability in order to deal 4 damage to a unit at a battlefield. Unfortunately for us, there's nothing we can do, so our Bewitching Spirit will die, and they will draw 1. Because it was a combat showdown, everything would heal, but because we've reduced the might, not dealt damage, that will now resolve. But because of the Abandoned Hall, the Ravenbloom will actually get +1 for their personal trigger, and then an additional 1 for the trigger of Abandoned Hall. We will then move our Ravenbloom Prefect over to the Void Gate, in which we will conquer to 2. Then we will tap 3, recycle a blue in order to play out a Covert Informant, and then we will tap 3 more in order to empower it, and our Mel again. And then for tap 2, we're going to play a Tide Turner to base in order to swap the location of those 2 units, and we'll pass. The temporary triggers of the reduction of 2 might and the addition of 2 might will occur on the Ravenbloom, and it is now the Kaiser's turn. They will begin by tapping 3 runes and exhausting the legend ability in order to play Void Seeker on our Tide Turner, which will resolve. Our Tide Turner will die. They will draw 1 card. They will then move their Kaiser over to this battlefield, and they will get a point for the Conquer, and a point for the Hold, sorry, and they will draw 1 for the Conquer ability on the Kaiser. They will then, for 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, exhaust 2 blue, play Singularity, targeting the Mel and the Covert Informant, in which we unfortunately have no way to counter that. They will both die. That will resolve. The Ravenbloom will stay at the battlefield, and when they will pass. It is now our turn. We're going to tap 1 in order to play stacked deck. Look at the top 3 cards of our main deck. 2 Ravenblooms, a pack of wonders a bit too late, unfortunately. We'll put 1 of the Ravenblooms to hand. We will then tap 2 in order to play the Ravenbloom, and then we'll tap 8, recycle 2 blue in order to play a Thousand Tail Watcher, 7 and 1 power for playing it, and then plus an additional 1 and 1 power to accelerate it. It will enter, and everything will now be... all enemies will be reduced by 3 might to a minimum of 1. We will now see the Thousand Tail Watcher enter into this battlefield, in which the Kaiser will die, and we will score to 3. We will then see the Ravenbloom Prefect over to this battlefield, in which the Kaiser will tap 1 in order to stupefy the Ravenbloom Prefect, drawing 1, and then increasing, so our Ravenbloom Prefect will go to 2 might, and their Ravenbloom Student will increase by 2 might, killing our Ravenbloom Prefect. We will then pass, because unfortunately for us, we should have done the Soul's Reflection trigger to reduce this down to -1, but that's an oversight. That's just a misplay right there. But we will pass, and the Kaiser will go to 6. They will go back to base. Then they will tap 5 and recycle a red to play a Darius. And then they're going to tap 5, recycle 1 in order to play an additional Darius. And because they've both now played they are their own second card, and they saw the witness of the second card, they actually are both now read and get +2. But they're going to pass, in which case the +2 will go away. It is now our turn, and we draw Fizz, which is kind of nice. It has the limitation of 3 energy, 1 power, so we can't play a Consult Pass, but we can play Star-Crossed in order to get rid of 1 Darius. We could also do it to play Stacked Deck, or Gust, but not Consult Past. We are going to score to 4 for holding the Void Gate. We're then going to move over to the Abandoned Hall to score to 5. Then we're going to tap 3, recycle 1 in order to play a Fizz to that battlefield. And we will, in fact, choose the stacked deck in order to give us the best chance of seeing a card. And unfortunately for us, we don't see what we need to see, because obviously if we don't hold both battlefields, they win next turn. Which means our best bet is to put the Ravenbloom Prefect to hand. The stacked deck will be banished, and then for 3 more, we'll play the Ravenbloom Prefect to that battlefield. Actually, no, we'll play it to that battlefield. So it's an even 7-7 split, and we'll pass. Unfortunately for us, the Kaiser will just tap 7 runes, recycle 1 to play a Thousand Tail Watcher, reducing the Ravenbloom down to 1 might, the Fizz down to 1 might, the Ravenbloom Prefect down to 1 might, and the Thousand Tail Watcher down to 4 might. And for their second trick, they'll tap 3 in order to reduce the Thousand Tail Watcher down by an additional 4 might, which has no minimum, allowing them to also look at the top deck of their main deck, or top card of the main deck. They see it's a Hex deck, they keep it there. Because they've played 2 cards this turn, both Dariuses go up to 7, and so they'll move 7 into here, 7 into here, with an additional 2 benefiting both. Obviously, in a real game, we would take it step by step, and so this battlefield will resolve first, and then this battlefield will resolve, but we already kind of know the outcome of this. It is now our turn to look at mulligans. So obviously the opponent's playing a lot of spells, and I think Abandon should come in. Existential Dread could be fun. Hard Bargain, absolutely. Switcheroo, they're playing a few big units, but otherwise nothing major. Unchecked Power, they're not maintaining it in individual or both battlefields with large packs. Angle Beast, they're not playing Swarms. Thousand Tail Watcher was useful, but I don't think that's the issue there. We need to remove now 3 cards. We are going to see for first a removal of... because we'll be going first. Let us remove the 2 Lecturing Yordles, and let us remove a Ravenbloom Prefect. Actually, we'll be able to remove both Ravenbloom Prefects because we don't think they're playing any gear, so we can actually bring back a unit. We'll bring back a Lecturing Yordle, and that'll be ours, and we'll choose to go Starspring for our next one. As for the Kaiser, we're not playing gear, we're not playing gear, we're not playing gear, we're not swarming, we're playing spells in the opponent's turn, and they will bring in a Mel Newly Awakened and get rid of a Plundering Porro. They'll actually do that twice. And they will choose for their second battlefield Forbidding Waste. Let us now head over... oh, actually, no, we'll do the Mulligan stage. So it's going to be the Mel is going to choose to go first. The opening hand of this time for the Mel is great. They love this opening hand. As for the Kaiser, they've got a 3-drop, they've got a 3-spell. They're pretty happy with that. They might drop the Ferris, but the Ferris might do really well into us. So they will keep, and we will begin. The Mel will tap 2, and they will draw. We can see their new card was the other Mel, and they'll pass. The Kaiser will tap 3, play a Lecturing, and draw 1, and they will pass. It is now our turn. We'll move a Plundering Porro over here. There's nothing the Kaiser can do, so we will conquer, creating 1 gold and getting a point. And now, for 4 runes, we are going to tap 3, recycle 1 to bring out a Covert Informant, and pass. Unfortunately for us, we didn't have 2 blue runes, otherwise we could have held onto that 1 rune just purely for Mesmerize, in order to do fun things, but we're kind of more interested in that return a friendly unit to its owner's hand situation. As for the Kaiser, they are going to begin by tapping 1 and their Legend ability in order to deal 3 damage to a unit in a battlefield, killing the Plundering Porro, and there's nothing we can do about it. That will resolve. They will then move the Lecturing Yordle over and conquer for 1 point. And then they will, for 4, develop their Kaiser to base and pass. It is now the Mel's turn, in which they will tap 3 in order to empower their Covert Informant and the Mel Legend, not Chosen Champion. And then they will move their Covert Informant over to this battlefield, in which the Lecturing Yordle will die. But before the Lecturing Yordle dies, we need to first do the move trigger, which would be when I move, draw 1, and they draw into a flash. Now a showdown begins. The showdown will resolve, and the Lecturing Yordle will die, and the Covert Informant will score to 1 point for the Mel. With 2 runes remaining, we're going to tap 2 and play a Tide Turner to base, and we're going to target the Covert Informant. Now, this is something that actually came up a bit ago when it came to how these kind of situations work. It specifies when you play me, you may choose a friendly unit, move me to its location, and then it to my original location. The move trigger will resolve, and they will draw 1. I am just going to double check something, because I believe this in particular got time? No. I was thinking something got errated when it came to move, and I don't believe I'm correct. Oh, it was Resonating Strike, sorry. Resonating Strike got an update to the errata, but nonetheless, it's a very important thing to note that technically this must resolve, but in the same resolution of this ability, you're getting another trigger, and there's it was a nice conversation I had with another person when it came to how these how sub triggers, such as a move trigger on Covert Informant, or as we were talking, Blue Lilia when it came to Smoke and Mirrors and a Mask of Foresight, whether or not, because the blue Lilia would move and leave behind a sprite, that sprite was ever technically seen alone. And under my current understanding, because the move trigger resolves, but technically these two things occur at the same time, there's never a time in which the individual would be seen in a defender's position alone, or witnessed by itself, but also I can see how definitely that could be untrue. Anyway, as for the Mel, they are going to pass their turn. They could technically pay the gold to hide the Consult the Past, but we want to save this gold cost for other things, and as such we're not going to use it just yet. It's now the Kaiser's turn, and they're going to begin by moving to this battlefield, and our poor Tide Turner will die. The Kaiser will score to 2 and draw for the Conquer. They will then tap 6, recycle 1 to play a Ferris Forerunner, and move their Kaiser back to base. And they'll pass. Well, technically they could have played Falling Star to kill the Covert Informant. That would have been fine. They could have also given it Eclipse and then just Bellows Breathed it for the same result for less power, but 1 power, or 0 power technically. It's also, the benefit of Falling Star is much more in the ability to kill either 2 units or a bit bigger of a unit. This is only a 4, so if you can get the value up to a 5 or a flat 6, that's better. And they already know I have a Thousand Tail Watcher, and they know the Mel exists, so there's a few other targets that could instead be of value to them. Over to the Mel, they drew their next Covert Informant, and they will now... So it's going to be, they can reduce this by 2 to 4. They can reduce it by another 2 down to 2. But we have no real way to clear the mechs once they're in the back line as easily. If we were to do that, that'd be 1, 3. So we've got access to 6 runes. The most expensive thing at the moment is 5. Oh, actually, no, we can do something really fun. Thank you for looking at that. So we're going to begin by tapping 5 to play out a Mel Defiant Soul. We're then going to disempower and exhaust this Mel legend in order to reduce the Ferris Forecaster's might by 2 to 4. We are then going to tap 1 and recycle the gold in order to choose an enemy unit and reduce its might by 2 this turn, so the Ferris Forerunner will now be a 2. That will resolve. And then we are going to discard a spell. We're going to choose to discard Consult the... No, we're going to choose to discard Flash in order to empower the Mel. And on the empowerment of the Mel, we are going to choose to banish this enemy unit with a might of 2 or less. And because it was banished, the mechs are not made. That is so fascinating. We see here that this is a 4 might Kaiser. We move, we get a draw, but instead we're going to tap 1 in order to play stacked deck. Look at the top 3 cards. We see a Bewitching Spirit, a Star-Crossed, and a Flash. Honestly, all 3 of these are great. This is such a strong way to save our units that we don't want to lose immediately. Seeing this go is a bit of a shame, especially since we only run 2 of these each. But, you know, it is what it is. So we're going to put the Star-Crossed to hand, recycle the rest, resolve, and we will pass. It is now the Kaiser's turn, and they will begin by drawing into a Thousand Tail Watcher. So the Thousand Tail Watcher, they could technically play this for 7, recycle 1, and then Bellows Breath for 1 energy, substituting the power for this, and kill both these units outright. And that is exactly what they're going to do. So they will just tap all 8, recycle 1, play the Thousand Tail Watcher, exhaust the legend, not the Mel, the Bellows Breath, and they will deal 1 damage to both of these units. There is nothing that we can do, and as such they will both die. That will resolve. And it is the Kaiser is going to move into this battlefield, scoring to 3, draw for 1 card, and pass. It is now our turn. We're going to tap 3, recycle the blue in order to play out a Covert Informant. We are then going to tap 4 to play a Consult the Past, draw 2, and we'll pass. The Kaiser will score up to 4 points for the hold, and they will tap 2 to play an Inferno to that battlefield, triggering the Star Spring, moving the Kaiser back readied. They'll move the Kaiser over to this battlefield, conquering to 5, and draw 1 for the move ability. And then they will tap 2, recycle 1 in order to play Falling Star, targeting the Covert Informant, in which now we have the opportunity to either play Hard Bargain in order to make them pay 2 more energy, or just let it resolve, in which case that's exactly what we kind of want to do. The reason we don't play Hard Bargain here is because they can afford it, and still have 3 runes remaining, so we're not really punishing them too much for that. The last thing they will do is move their 1000 Hell Watcher, so the Kaiser isn't getting a debuff for being there alone. And 4, recycle 1 to play Mel Newly Awakened 2 base. And pass. It is now our turn. We drew into another Stupefy, which is a form of card draw, which is quite nice. So for 5, we're going to bring our Mel Defiant Soul to hand. We're then going to tap 1 in order to Stupefy the Kaiser and draw 1. There is nothing the Kaiser can do about that. We are then going to choose to banish our not our Hard Bargain, our Star-Crossed to empower the Mel and the Mel Legend. And we're going to choose to banish the Kaiser, which is currently at 3 might because of the Kaiser, the Stupefy, and that will be removed. We're then going to tap 1 in order to play a stacked deck. Look at the top 3 cards of our main deck, and we see a Raven Bloom and a 1000 Hell Watcher and a Gust. We are going to choose 2, because we could do the Gust, and get rid of the Inferno, and especially because we technically have 3, we could, if the Mel moves in, we could Stupefy the Mel and then Gust it back to hand, which would be quite strong. But we get the same result out of a Starcross at the moment, and we get to return our own Mel. So more than anything currently, I think that we need to put the 1000 Hell Watcher to hand. Might be a misplay, but we'll find out. And then we will pass. For the Kaiser, they will score up to 7 for holding 2 battlefields, and they know they just need to hold 1 battlefield. And as such, they're going to move to this battlefield with the Mel Newly Awakened. They're going to tap 6, recycle 1 to play a Ferret's Forerunner to this battlefield. And they are going to tap 2, recycle 1 and exhaust the Mel Legend in order to play Falling Star. We are going to respond at reaction speed by tapping 3, recycle 1, Starcrossed, in order to target the Mel and their Ferret's Forerunner. That will resolve with the Ferret's Forerunner going back to hand and the Mel going back to hand, and that means that the Falling Star will fizzle, and with 1 rune remaining, the Kaiser will pass. It is now the Mel's turn, and they will begin by tapping 5. Well, actually, if we tap 8, we can play at the 1000 Hell Watcher, reduce this to 1, 1, and 4, move this into this battlefield, and then be able to ride the wind over to this battlefield, conquering both battlefields, and that's kind of what we need to do right now. So that's exactly what we'll do. We'll move to this battlefield, and because of the -2 here, it's actually down to 2 might, and these are both at 1. This will resolve with the 1000 Hell Watcher dying, and us going to 3. We will then tap 2, recycle 1 in order to play Ride the Wind, targeting the 1000 Hell Watcher over to this battlefield and readying it. And that way the Inferno will die and the Mel will die, and we'll score to 4. With 1 rune remaining, that's enough to play Mesmerize, reducing a unit's might by 2, which might be enough. And we will pass. It is now the... Also, it's important to note that while we did technically take over at this battlefield 2 points of damage, combat resolved and we healed, and then we moved over to here, took 2 points of damage, combat resolved and we healed. So we didn't miss potential damage steps, we just kind of went beyond, we sped through it. Because as much as this is a learning series, it is also important that you guys pick up some of these things as you go and understand that not everyone's going to take a moment to pause all the time, but nonetheless, I will point it out where it becomes necessary. It is now the Kaiser's turn. They realise that yes, technically it's a 4-7, so it means that there is no way for the Mel to win, and unless they have another way to get to this battlefield, there's not a way for them to win in 2 turns' time. So they will begin by tapping 6 and recycling a red in order to play out the Ferrous Forerunner. And that's all they're going to do. They could have played a progress day to draw 4, but getting a unit on the base is much scarier when you're the one who's fighting for their life. It now becomes the Mel's turn, and they draw a Tornado Warrior, which we do kind of like. But we're going to begin by tapping 5 to play a Mel. Yeah, we'll play the Mel to base. We are going to... I'm thinking, because we could do -2, -1, draw 1. So whatever the drawn card is, because this requires us, if we have a way to get this Ferrous Forerunner to the Star Spring through things such as the Twilight Step, that would be the perfect way for us to really get out of this this issue we're currently facing. But because we only run 1 Twilight Step, it does make things a little more interesting. So we'll test the waters by tapping 1 in order to draw 1 card. Oh my god! That is why you never give up, people. Goddamn. So now what we can do is the Ferrous Forerunner is now a 5. That will resolve. We will exhaust our Mel and disempower it to reduce it down to 3. We will then tap 2, recycle a purple, to Twilight Step this unit into the combat with our... into the combat with... Oh, actually... we have to move it over to here, which seems so bizarre, and that will resolve. And because the Kaiser was at match point, they draw 1 rather than get a point, so they are drawing, unfortunately for us. And then we will then recycle a hard bargain to empower our Mel. And on empowerment, we will banish the other Ferrous Forerunner. And also the empowerment re-empowers our Mel. Yeah. And then we will recycle 1 to hide the Tornado Warrior to this battlefield. And we will pass. It is now the Kaiser's turn. Did we get a point for that turn? No, we forgot to give it, so we're up to 5. And we can see that we'll go to 6 here, and then we'll go 7 here, which does mean that now the Kaiser really needs to start thinking about what they want to do. The Kaiser is going to play a progress day to draw 4. They draw into a Time Warp, into a Stupefy, Thousand Tail Watcher, and Mel. They're going to tap 4 more to play that Mel and recycle 1. And they'll have to pass because the reality of their situation is they're in a bad place. For 6, we are then going to see the Mel go over to this battlefield and conquer to 7. And we have no real way of drawing. Technically, this is just now a 3-might unit at this battlefield. And on play, technically the Star Spring would allow us to move this, but if we really just want to hold this battlefield, but we needed to go over here to score, but because of this, technically this Mel is a -2, so we're relying on our plethora of options in order to prevent the Mel's death. I'm just going to preemptively put that to 2. It is also worth noting that technically I did mistrigger on the Ferrous Forerunner, but it's because while I do need the unit to be at a battlefield to give it -2, I also needed to be at a battlefield for this, and so while I did do it preemptively, it was also unnecessary because this battlefield also reduced its might by 2 again. It eventually ended up at a battlefield, so it was not the it wasn't the end of the world. But I should have done that in the correct order, and I apologize for that. The Mel must now pass, and it is in the Kaiser's hand. They're going to begin by tapping 8, recycling 2 to play a Thousand Tail Watcher accelerated, and this will reduce the Thousand Tail to 4, and the Mel to 1. Because this unit is defending here alone, it is not given its minus 2 it is not holding here alone, it is defending here. It is at -1 at the moment, because the -3 is to a minimum of 1. Then what will happen is for 1, recycle 1, the Hextech Ray is going to come out, targeting the Mel Defiant Soul, in which case we will tap 2 in order to counter the spell and allow us to look at the top card of our deck, and we'll see it's a Tide Turner, which we will keep. And the Hextech Ray will fizzle back into hand, because the Abandon says put it back to hand rather than trash. Which means that the Kaiser will then tap 1 in order to do it again. And to that, we will say, well, you're going to kill it anyway, I might as well return it to my hand. While we could have technically tried and saved this, -2 against this, we already know that with this we have 3 might and 4 might. Well, actually no, we're going to pretend I haven't done that yet. That's on me. That is something that you'd think of over the board. You'd say, hey, look, nah, kill the Mel. Because if you conquer both of these, I'm losing anyway. That will resolve. The Mel will then move over to this battlefield and draw 1 for the turn. Then the Stupefy will come out, targeting the Thousand Tail Watcher, drawing 1. The Thousand Tail Watcher will go down to 3 might. That will resolve. And the Thousand Tail Watcher will come over to this battlefield, and we will then tap 1, recycle 1 in order to reduce a unit's might by 2, making this a 5, and then we will reveal the Tornado Warrior, which is just a 3 might, which means this is 6 against 5. They will kill the Thousand Tail Watcher, and they will pass, putting us up to 8 points, winning the second round. Now, what did we learn? We learned that this deck has some opportunities, but it still really struggles. Is there anything that we could potentially put in place to help us? Well, we're going to be playing second, so putting in a Lecturing Yordle and taking out a Plundering Porrer, not a bad way to start. Having a second Thousand Tail Watcher might help. And as much as we're wanting to get these tricks out, the Pack of Wonders is just doing nothing, and so we're going to put that away. And we'll leave it at that. And our last battlefield is Threshold of the Grey. As for the Kaiser, still not much gear, still not much holding. However, I think it is time for a Brynhir Thunderstorm, maybe 2. The Mel Newly Awakened, it's just not getting as much play. I am forgetting about the draw 1 triggers on it, so I apologise for that. That is definitely on me. And I don't think Time Warp is the way to win this game either. And we'll go to our final battlefield of Rockfall Path. It is the Mel will be going, or the Kaiser will going first, and opening hand for both players is actually really good, and they're going to keep them. Over to the spectators. It is Kaiser's turn first. Did kind of forget that they were going first, not second, so unfortunately then they are passing turn 1. The Mel is going to play out a Ravenloom Student and pass. Kaiser's going to tap 3, play a Lecturing Yordle, draw 1 and pass. The Mel is going to move over to the Threshold of the Grey and conquer 2-1. Then they will tap 3, recycle 1 to play out a Covert Informant and pass. The Kaiser will tap 1 in order to play to target the Stupefy, target the Ravenbloom with the Stupefy, reducing its might to 1, and draw 1. They will then move into this battlefield, and upon showdown, both attacker and defender get 1 energy floating. And with priority, the Kaiser is going to pass. It is now priority for the Mel. They're going to... Technically, there's nothing they can do that would be of strong benefit to them, except tap 1, recycle 1, mesmerize the Lecturing Yordle down to 0 might, and give themselves +1 might for the playing of a spell. The Kaiser will then respond at reaction speed, targeting they will first, actually, they will let this resolve, because if they did not let it resolve, technically the Ravenbloom student would be at 1 still, and playing the Stupefy would not reduce its might by 1 again. It would just draw them 1 card. The Kaiser will then spend the 1 energy floating in order to reduce the Ravenbloom student's might by 1, drawing an additional card. And at this stage, unless they have a way to bolster their Lecturing Yordle, they are not winning this combat, because if it's a tie, well, that's exactly what it is. And as such, for 1 more energy, they are going to play at action speed because it's their priority. Sorry, it isn't their priority. I lie, because they pass priority. They're the attacker. I thought they were the defender for some reason. They will die. They could play the Eclipse to reduce it by 4, but at that stage you're burning a lot to clear a 2 might unit, when in reality they're just going to tap 1 to play a Bellows Breath, killing it, and that is exactly what will happen. Then for 3, they will have to pass, unfortunately. Over to the Mel, who will tap 3 to begin with, empowering their Covert Informant and their Mel Legend, and move it over to this battlefield, going to pass priority over to the Kaiser, who can only play action or reaction, which for them there is nothing that they can do because this is slow and that's slow and this does nothing to stop the combat, and so they will pass priority, giving the Mel a point, and the move trigger obviously will draw 1 for the Covert Informant. Then for 2, you're seeing before, Tide Tornado here. Because this says you cannot play units here, it doesn't say you can move units from here. We can do the Tide Turner to base and swap locations, drawing an additional for the movement of the Covert Informant, and pass. It is now the Kaiser's turn. They will begin by tapping 1 and using Hextech Ray to kill the Tide Turner. And then they will tap 4 to play the Kaiser Survivor to base, and pass. The Covert Informant will ready, move to this battlefield. Once again, there's nothing the Kaiser can do, and then we'll move to 3. We'll obviously get a point, draw. Then for 3, they will play a Bewitching Spirit, in which case the Kaiser will get rid of... Oh, they're in a very bad position. Let's get rid of the Singularity. While it's very powerful, we're not seeing a huge number of larger units that Singularity can benefit from. And then for 3, recycle 1. The Starcross is going to come out, targeting the Kaiser and the Bewitching Spirit, which will resolve. And a pass. It is now the Kaiser's turn, and they will begin by tapping 5, recycling 1 to bring out the Kaiser Accelerated. And 3 in order to play Eclipse, targeting the Covert Informant, reducing it down to 0 might, and allowing them to look at the top card of their main deck. We can see it's another Eclipse, so they're kind of happy with that. That will resolve. They'll move their Kaiser over to this battlefield, and a showdown will begin. Each of them get 1 energy. The Kaiser is going to tap 1 and that in order to add action speed, deal 3 damage to their Covert Informant. And with the 1 floating energy and that, they will play Flash in order to bring the Covert Informant back to base, fizzling the Hextech Ray. That was a misordering, wasn't actually on purpose, but they should have killed the Covert Informant with the Hextech Ray before moving in. But regardless, the Kaiser goes to 1 and gets a draw for the Conquer, and they will pass. It is now the Mel's turn. The Covert Informant is back to normal. And we've got the Tornado Warrior in order to bring out the Mel and empower it, but we just need to reduce its might by 1. But currently the only way to do that is to play Thousand Tail Watcher, which would be a little overkill, and we might as well just kill it outright that way. So for fun, we're going to tap 3 to play a Bewitching Spirit, making the Kaiser remove another card from their hand, and they will be choosing to get rid of the Mel. We are then going to move the Covert Informant, drawing to 1. The Kaiser has no tricks, and as such the Mel will go to 4 points. Then for 5, we will play the Mel Defiant Soul to base, and pass. It is now the... Oh, I just realised we had a way to do it by playing the Mel and then using the Legend ability in order to reduce its might by 2, and then discarding really the only choice is Abandon in order to bring the Kaiser, banish the Kaiser. But the Kaiser will now score to 2. And then for 3 and the Kaiser Legend, they will deal 4 damage to the Covert Informant, which will die, and they will draw 1. Then for 5 and a recycle 1, they will play out the Darius, which is the second card, which means that goes up to 7 might this turn and is readied, and it moves over to Rockfall Path and scores to 3. The Kaiser will move back from that battlefield and pass, and the Darius will go back down to 5 might. We drew into a Gust, so if we have a way to reduce this unit's might by 2, by exhausting and targeting 3, we can then get rid of the Gust in order to empower the Mel and re-empower the Legend in order to banish the Darius, which is exactly what will happen. We will then move the Mel over to the Rockfall Path, scoring to 5. And we've got the Fizz here, which we could use to Starcross the Kaiser and the Bewitching Spirit, which is actually what we will do. We will tap 3, recycle 1 to play a Fizz to base. Well, actually, before we do that, sorry. There. We will move the Bewitching Spirit to this battlefield. And the Bewitching Spirit will score to 6. Then for 3 recycle 1, we'll play the Fizz, who will then play the Starcross from the trash, paying 1 power, targeting these 2. And that will resolve with the Kaiser going back to hand and the Bewitching Spirit going back to hand. And then for 3, we will play the Bewitching Spirit, forcing the Kaiser to get rid of the Bellow's Breath. And then we will tap 2 in order to play a Ravenbloom Student to base and pass. It is now the Kaiser's turn. They are going to begin by tapping 5, recycling 1 to play an accelerated Kaiser. Then they're going to tap 2, recycle 1 and disempower in order to play Falling Star, dealing damage to the Fizz and the Bewitching Spirit, in which case we will respond by tapping 2 to play Abandon, looking at the top card of our main deck, seeing it is a stacked deck, we will keep it. That will resolve, the Falling Star will go back to hand, they will then recycle 2 more in order to play it again, targeting the same 2 units, in which time it will kill. Then they will tap the last 3 runes they have in order to target the Mel, reducing its might by 4, so it goes down to 0. Looking at the top card of their deck, which is a Temporal Breach, which is interesting, but we'll keep. And then the Kaiser will move over to this battlefield, killing the Mel, scoring to 4, drawing 1 for the Conquer, and passing. It is now match point for the Mel, if they have a way to conquer 2 battlefields, which they do. And because the Kaiser is fully tapped out, there is nothing that they can do to stop this. So we will exhaust 8, recycle 2 to play a Thousand Tail Watcher accelerated. We will then, the quick option is just move over to this battlefield, score to 7, and move over to this battlefield, score to 8 after the combat. The alternative was, if you were curious, was to play the stacked deck, look at the top 3 cards, look for a Gust, which in this case, nah, didn't happen, but the Mesmerize would have also worked as a way to reduce the unit's might even further down to -1. But we didn't need to, thankfully. But that is that. What we can now do is, if we swing over to, give me one moment, this one, we can now review our Mel deck in hindsight. The first thing I like to do is, were any battlefields strong or weak? All 3 battlefields were actually really strong. I didn't feel like any of them truly let me down. I wasn't avoiding any of them, and I had a lot of ways to interact with each and every one of them. Looking at the deck, this Ravenbloom Prefect doesn't belong in the main. This needs to, and actually, as we will edit, what this needs to instead be is in the sideboard. First and foremost, move to sideboard, both of them. What else was good? What else was bad? Well, Twilight Step was really fun, but we actually almost need 2 Twilight Steps. I felt like if we had them more available, it could have changed the game up quite a lot. It's properly spelled, thank you very much. While that loads, was there anything else? Well, we never saw the rebuttal. The Mesmerize was... Oh, I've misspelt, that's why. Twilight, not like light and then light again. The rebuttal, I didn't get to play it. Would it have been very useful? Yeah, probably. But because we didn't see it, we can't say much about it, and so we'll pause on that for now. Were there any things that we would have preferred? Well, let's reduce the Ravenblooms by 1 and actually increase the Tide Turners by 1. Because if you remember, during that game, we actually had a lot of times when the Tide Turner was able to move our Covert Informant to increase our draw potential. We never did the Tornado Warrior trigger, which doesn't mean it's bad, it just means we didn't do it. But also at the same time, I don't think we need 3 Mels in the main. Maybe 2's okay, but 3's a bit too much. What else? Well, the Consult the Pasts were kind of duds. I'd rather remove both of them and have 2 downstage dramatics instead. Why don't we go for Dredge? It's because I don't feel like the Dredge would make the difference in the same way. Well, actually, I lie. Let us bring in the Dredge. Because we're never really looking for... Actually, the benefit of downstage dramatics is it is at reaction speed. We do not have any ways to reduce the cost of flow, and therefore it does not get the same benefit. So Dredge is not the way to go. If we were running Stargazer, even just 1 copy, it would have been different. What else? What else? Well, we never really played Pack of Wonders. The one time we saw it was a bit too late. Stupefy is always very fun. It makes the difference. Stacked deck, we kind of like. The Gust, well, the one time we saw Gust, we kind of actually had to really ponder it, didn't we? That's how you know it's the same video, or the same day. Or is it? So the Gust at the moment, bit 50-50 on, but maybe we can leave it in for now. Thousand Tail Watcher, lovely. Did we want a second? Possibly. Let's move it over. Now on to the sideboard. Honestly, the Hard Bargain didn't do its work. But then again, we were playing into a deck that often had a lot of potential, and therefore we needed to instead prefer to have this in hand long term. But the Abandon did so much better at doing the same thing. So if we remove that, I think that this is a great version 2. Now, is there anything in the bench that we think would fit nicely? Well, the Grumpy Rock Bear, now that I'm looking at it, I loved what we were doing, but we were not playing Hold. We were playing Jump In, Jump Out. So I don't think Grumpy Rock Bear is going to fit in. Applied Researchers, reducing the spell cost of all of our spells by 1 energy, 1 power, would have been quite nice. I think that if we put it into the main, we could potentially see this substitute in for Lecturing Yordle, and having 1 Lecturing Yordle or no Lecturing Yordles, and instead going 3 Applied Researchers, which isn't a bad idea. The alternative to Applied Researcher is Eager Apprentice, which is when I'm at a battlefield, your spells are reduced by 1 to a minimum of 1, but Applied Researcher requires no battlefield and also is the power as well. And if we look at our power cost, one spell here, this spell, these spells, Mesmerize, Rebuttal, these are all power cost spells. In fact, if we look, we've got 16 power cost, and a lot of them except for, what is it, just Thousand Tail Watcher? Yeah, just Thousand Tail Watcher and Covert Informant. Those are the only two, only 4 units that actually cost spell. So over those 16, 12 of them are spells. That cost power, I should say. Wind and Ghosts, sorry, choose a battlefield if it has 3 or less, banish it. We're already getting this benefit out of Mel. I don't think we need to consider that. Iterative Design, you know, it's a spell, but I don't think we would ever really play it nor consider it as a discard option, because we're usually holding on to smaller spells ready for a quick reaction play. Shock Blast, at the same idea though, is 4 damage to a unit at a battlefield. I think we keep this one on the bench. Apathetic Vex, however, can disappear. Same with Mel Newly Awakened. I think that the draw would be nice, but the Empower, we're not really going to be we've got other places to spend our energy. Fallen Comet, very nice big spell, but we're not about doing damage with our spells, more as we are about reducing the might of the opponent, and so I think that'll also be removed. We will pause on this collection here. Oh, sorry, I'll get Singularity for the same reason, but I'll keep Unchecked Power for a different reason. I think that this is a very good first iteration, and let's do a rebalance. Nope, same balance, cool. And we can say that because it's a 9 to 7, which is a 2 difference if we were to find an average number across 12, because that's how you do ratios. It's at a 9 to 7, but if you want to make it a 12, you'd have to do the math on that one, and trust me about it. I do not feel like this deck is in a bad place. I think that it is... I'll save that as an update as a 1.1, and we can revisit it at another time, and we can slowly work on this deck together and build it, and you'll see it organically change as time goes on. The point of this is going to be to slowly give you information about what to consider, not only from a deck building perspective, but when you're scrolling through Piltover Archive and looking at what other people do, hopefully it gives you some insight into why is there a 1 of right now? Why has that person got 3 of that? Why is that person not running this card that's so popular? In our deck at the moment, we have Gust, Rebuttal, Pack of Wonders, we have Tornado Warrior, we have Applied Researcher, we have 5 1 copies in our main deck. Including our Chosen Champion, actually. We have only 1 copy of our Chosen Champion as well. We have the only 3 copies of a card we have is Stacked Deck, and that is to find the other cards. So if you really think about what our deck is wanting to do in the grand scheme of everything else, we're slowly finding out. That will turn from 5 1 copies, maybe down to 3 1 copies, and from 1 3 stack, like a 1 playset, to 3 playsets. It all comes down to find your playstyle, find what you enjoy, build that playstyle, and go from there. Anyway, that has been everything from me today. If you would like to check out the deck, I will be publicly posting it, as well as talking a lot about the changes that we've just made. Otherwise, I will catch you guys in the next one.